Hey folks, this is Matt once again. Welcome back to another Omen review. First Power 100 sent me these, the Omen films. And of course, as you've seen so far, the very first one, I respect the film. I like Gregory Peck. Gregory Peck, David Warner. The acting was fine. Jerry Goldsmith's score was fine. It was a well-directed film. It's just the storyline isn't the most interesting to me, but I'm reviewing these because First Power 100 sent these to me. Wasn't a fan of the ending. A little bit too slow. Mainly, I wasn't a fan of the ending and some other stuff. Then I saw the Omen remake, which made me appreciate the first film more, the original more. And the remake, I thought was a total piece of shit. If you want to know why, you can watch my rant. Now, Damien Omen II, or sequel to the very first one, is a film that came out in 1981. No, that was three. Two came out in 1978. Yeah, because the first one was 76, so the second one came out in 78. Jerry Goldsmith did the score again. Don't think the score was as good as the score in the first film. Directed by, it was a guy named Mike Hodges who was directing it, but then they shit canned him because they said he was going too slow. So they got this guy, not Opie Taylor, what the hell, Don Taylor. Opie. Okay, I want to say Opie Taylor, but it's Don Taylor who did the sequel. And Damien Omen 2 is one of those films like the first film that it's not a rant. At the same time, though, it was there. It was there. Damien Omen 2. It was there. Didn't hate the film. I thought the two actors, William Holden and Lee Grant, they were okay, but they weren't as good as Gregory Peck or I always forget her name in the first film, Lee Remick. Not as good as those two in the first film, but I thought they did okay. I did not mind Jonathan Scott Taylor, who played the teenage, well, sort of like about, let's see, about 13, 12-year-old Damien. Jonathan Scott Taylor. I thought he did okay. Once in a while, the acting seemed a little bit stiff, but overall, I thought Jonathan Scott Taylor, he did a pretty good job. I did not mind him. Definitely the film with this film has got a bit more death scenes in it. Definitely some interesting death scenes. I mean, the beginning of the film, it takes place a little bit after the first film, and you have the guy who gave the knives to Gregory Peck in the first film. He's trying to get his friend to believe him the story about the Antichrist. They go, oh, there's this wall, and on the wall, there's the son, Damien, where it shows that he's going to be he's the Antichrist, and it's evidence. So this guy, Bugenhagen, who was in the first film, drags his buddy there to prove it to him. And the guy sees, oh my god, on the wall, one of the faces of who's going to be the Antichrist is Damien, the kid from the first film. But all of a sudden, I like this scene. I just thought it was a well done scene because one side of them caves in, then the other side caves in, so they're stuck between a rock and a hard place, literally. And then sand just starts slowly shifting from above them and gets more and more and more. One gets knocked down or probably dead, and the other's like, good will win, good will always win. That's not the dialogue, but pretty much the gist of it. And he gets buried alive. I thought, yeah, that was a pretty well done scene. And then it's about 7 years later, and we're introduced to Damien, played by Jonathan Scott Taylor, who's living with the brother of Gregory Peck, played by William Holden. And he has a wife, Lee Grant, and they have a son from William Holden's first marriage. And that son, who I believe is Mark, and Damien, they're good with each other. But yeah, if there's something's wrong, I mean, we already know something's wrong because of the first film, but the aunt, Sylvia Sidney, who I know I've seen this girl before, the kids don't like her, and she's like, "Oh, Damien, you gotta get your son Mark away from Damien." I'm like, "Is this gonna be the good son now?" Well, this is before the good son. But that's right, she was in Beetlejuice. She was the one who was pissed at Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis, like, no, no, don't say his name. And, read your book. I remember that, Beetlejuice. I knew that was familiar. She's the older lady that's trying to teach them, kind of like the boss of the underworld, however you want to call us. But she's warning them, hey, there's something up with Damien, get him away. And long story short, she dies because uh, like a crow or a raven goes by her place, goes by her room, and she pretty much has a heart attack. So pretty simple, uneventful death, but I think that's just, they start off as simple because it gets some crazy deaths later on. And you did, like, a problem with the film, like, not only that William Holden and Lee Grant, I think they're okay in the film, but they're just not as good as Gregory Peck and Lee Remick. I mean, they're better than fucking Liev Schreiber and Julia Stiles in the remake. I mean, I thought they were okay. Like Jerry Goldsmith, I thought his score was a step down from the original. And pretty much the film is, how do we get to each death scene? Which, that's like slasher films. And this was, well, I mean, 1978, but it's kind of like in a way, a slasher film. Or almost like a precursor to Final Destination. Like, how do these people get killed in, different ways? Which, I like a lot of slasher films. I like at least the first two Final Destination films. But you have this whole thing with William Holden at this company of his Thorn Enterprise, and there's this other guy who you found he kind of knows who Damien is. He wants to have this plan with agriculture and for people to have to buy the food from us. So it's like we buy their land, and just sort of one guy's like, "What? Like we're their tenants?" It's like, "Yeah, but we don't feed them and make their belly full." Pretty much getting power using agriculture and food, and this whole thing I did not give a shit about. I did not give a fuck about or shit about or fucking. I didn't care. I understand that it's going to lead into the future for Damien, so he can get more power. But it wasn't interesting. It wasn't interesting this dealing with the agriculture and the food and what the all the shit that was going on. It wasn't interesting. It was boring. It was uneventful. It was uninteresting. I just did not give a shit. And then, certain people try to warn William Holden. You have this journalist, character name is Joan Hart, trying to warn. She was a friend of David Warner's character in the first film, and she's trying to tell him what's going on. But then later on, she dies. These birds peck her eyes out. They're on her, and she's bleeding, and she walks out. Could have been a good death scene, but they fuck up because she walks out, and okay, she's on the highway, her eyes are fucked up, a truck's coming. But they did it such a shitty way because when she gets hit, first off, it's of course going to be a dummy, but it's obviously a dummy, very obviously a dummy, and the dummy flies off. Okay, how do I describe it? Okay, a semi truck. Let's say you look at it from the side. Let's say this is a semi truck. You know that the semi truck here's like the engine, and then here's where the driver's at. The glass, and then there's the hitch, and then you have like your cargo that you're carrying. Like think of Optimus Prime or whatever, the cargo. Well, when she hits, you see the dummy fly up and hit the back of the cargo, like, and then fly down. You just see it go, like it's on this angle. You see the dummy go, and then slide down. And it is laughable. I mean, it's not really bloody. It's obviously a dummy. It looked fucking laughable. And why the fuck would she fly all the way over to here and then slide down between the truck and the cargo? And if you don't do it like, well, they did later in Maximum Overdrive. Just boom, hit it hard or something. I mean, it's R-rated film. It's a horror film. It's meant to be taken serious and vicious and like David Warner's death scene. But that was fucked up because it was just a very laughable. They did it in a bad way. They accomplished it in a bad way. So they fucked that death scene up. They really did. You have another one where you have this guy who's not sure about this agriculture thing that's going on with this other guy, and so everyone's playing hockey outside on the ice. And this one, it doesn't look like Damien or anyone really does anything. It's just, it almost seems like this guy died of his own stupidity because they're playing hockey. Some random person, I'm not sure if it was the other good kid Marv or some other person, just hits the puck. The guy stays too far, and then slides and falls into the ice. And it seemed like, okay, this guy just died of his own stupidity because he went too far. I mean, if we're supposed to establish, I mean, I know there's a shot with a crow, but you should at least establish if it's something else. I mean, I understand that the point of these films are supposed to be, well, it's just convenience. You know, these die. It could all be explained logically that they all just die of convenience, but I'm like, that's a stupid reasoning. This stupid thing. We all know what's going on in the Omen films. We know that there's the devil and the Antichrist. We all know this shit, so stop trying to fool us with this shit. And then get to my point, at least it makes it seem like, okay, someone's cracking the ice over here. So if you know when like if this person is coming, make sure have a shot in the ice where it crackles, or or something. Or Damien is the one who hits the puck, and so that drives the guy over there, and then he falls down. Because I know at this point Damien doesn't really 100% know who he is, but at least something. I mean, show something. It's just the way it's shot is like this guy's died of his own stupidity. I mean, other than that, it's a well shot scene because you have a real person underneath this ice and them trying to scramble and get an axe and try and get through the ice. It's a well done scene. You see the guy from under the ice and stuff. It's a well done scene. I just think they could have, made it more like. Seems like the guy died of his own stupidity. If there was other forces at work, what the hell did they do? I guess it just it was random chance that he happened to go too far. I mean, if they were fucking with his skates or doing something, or he an extra push that no one saw or something, some outside force, but it doesn't even seem that way. Or show that at least this one patch of ice crackles is much weaker than the others. If it was, I must have missed it. So it was well shot, but that was my own little nitpick on it. Um, Now, I did not. I like the fact that he was in a military academy, Damien. I thought that was okay. That's an interesting idea. You do have an appearance of Lance Henriksen, which is cool. I wish he was in the film more. He's not really in the film too much. He's a new sergeant at the academy, kind of takes the boy under his wing, and he's like, don't draw attention to yourself. Because this is the aspect of the film I liked. To be honest, I wish the film was more about this, about Lance Henriksen sort of being the guy who's teaching this kid what to do and not to do. And I like the fact that at first this kid is kind of conflicted, at least a little bit, but I think they could have expanded on it much more. He's conflicted. Like, for example, I did enjoy the scene where this teacher tries to, oh, you're not paying attention. And he's like asking these questions, but every time the teacher asks a question, Damien gets it right, 100%. And so it's this one off where the teacher just keeps asking questions and dates, and Damien just answers. And you can see the look on the teacher's face, like he's getting, like, what the fuck, what the fuck, what the fuck? Like he doesn't know what the hell's going on. He doesn't know what's happening. Just how the hell does he know all these answers and dates? And then Lance Henriksen has to stop, and that's where he goes, you're drawing attention to yourself. Don't show off. Read your Bible. And that's where Damien reads and sees that there's the number of the beast and 666, and he looks in the mirror and he sees it and he runs out and he goes, why me? And that was an interesting aspect. It seems like he's not really 100% at first with this, and he's questioning himself. I mean, even later on, I'll jump to he likes his, I guess you'd call sort of way a brother, step brother, Mark. when the kid finds out who Damien really is, Damien asks him to join him. Says, hey, I think of you as my brother. Join me. And ultimately, sort of, he does what he thinks he has to do, gives the kid an aneurysm. But then he looks at him, you see there's tears in the eyes, and he screams. Or he yells, and he goes to the body, and he says, oh, Mark. Like, he did what he had to do, but he didn't want to. I thought that could have been done more. Like, that's what could have been done more. Fuck this agriculture shit about the food. I don't give a fuck about the food and your plan in the future. You could say that for your fucking sequel, which I'm sure, well, they kind of dealt with that in this Omen 3. Just save for that shit. I think here it could have been more with the academy. Take away all this corporate bullshit with the food and all this other stuff. I think you could have taken all that out. Just him being in the academy, entering through puberty, trying to figure out who he is. That should have been tacked on more, but they focused too much on other bullshit like uh, William Holden's company and stuff. There's like another employee at the company who alerts the guy who you tell he's in cahoots with Damien or he's trying to protect him that people who refuse to sell their lands have been murdered, and the guy says, "Oh, I'll look into it." Then later on, that guy's killed because at the plant there's these toxic fumes that come out and pretty much kill the guy. And again, that death scene, not much to it. Pretty much the guy's trying to get out and he spits some stuff and falls back down. But the last two death scenes well, they're not really the last two, but two of the death scenes are really good, and I'll get to them. I'm getting to them. But then, like, there's this doctor, Meshach Taylor, if that's how you say his first name, Meshach Taylor. Pretty much the guy who was in Mannequin. He was in Designing Women. The black guy designing women and Mannequin. He's there as a doctor, and he's like, "Hey, talking to William Holden, something's up with your kid, Damien. Everyone else was affected by these toxic fumes except him." And he does more tests, and for some reason, Damien has the blood of a jackal. And it's because in the first film, his mother was a jackal. And so he goes into his elevator. This is where you get, I think, the best death scene of the franchise, of all of these films. Really good death scene. He's in an elevator that goes up, and he's not wanting to go up, and then it goes all the way down, and slams into the floor. And then the cables up top are fucked up, and then this thing goes all the way down the elevator shaft, crashes through the top of the elevator, and cuts him right in half. And you see the bloody part of his bottom half, and just cuts, boom, right here in half, and then right through the floor. I'm like, wow, that is a hell of a death scene. That's a death scene that's like, holy shit. I mean, that's like, holy shit, what? That's a fucked up death scene. That's really crazy. So I thought that was a really good death scene. And then pretty much you find out that a buddy of William Holden finds remember the wall at the beginning that I said that had Damien's face? Buddy William Holden finds that out and tries to warn William Holden. William Holden's like, yeah, what are you talking about? Then later on finds out that the guy's like going crazy and said, oh, I saw it. William Holden says, oh, hey, show it to me. Because this is after that scene I talked about where his actual son Mark is killed by the aneurysm by Damien. And then this is where you get another death scene that's pretty cool because it's on a train yard, and the one guy, William Holden's buddy, is waiting there, and William Holden goes in and sees Damien's face, especially his eyes, on the wall piece that is at this train yard. But then this train goes up by itself, hits the back of one, which goes forward, and his buddy's here, and there's like the things that hook onto the other track, the other cargo of the train, grabs the guy, and it not flies, but goes through until the guy hits another train. And it's not bloody or anything, but just the idea behind it, and I thought it was well shot, and it's not bloody, but I thought it was well shot. I'm like, well, okay, that's another death scene I enjoyed. And then as the movie goes on, And it's one of those things that William Holden is convinced now. He's convinced now. He's like, oh shit. Uh, um, it's one of those things that I saw this coming because I saw my friend Mike's review, but he's going to find the knives like in the first film, and you find out that his wife, Lee Grant, is actually in cahoots with Damien. Says, I was always his, and stabs William Holden. So it ends a depressing ending. And then she yells, Damien! And then Damien does sort of a firebomb and burns her the fuck up. And then pretty much Damien gets the hell out of Dodge. So the reason I thought it was okay, I did not mind the kid who played Damien. I thought he was good. William Holden and Lee Grant were okay. The the death scenes, especially of Meshach Taylor in the elevator, that was definitely very cool. And the one on the train was pretty decent. The one with the crow started off okay with her eyes being pet, not bloody, but you see a little bit. But the rest of it not so good. I like the way it's shot when the guy's underwater, like he's trapped under the ice. Just the reason behind it, I'm not sure, but I like the. I can say I like that death scene too. I think it's a good death scene, well shot. But yeah, I think the slow pace really didn't help with. But yeah, I think William Holden and Lee Grant are okay, but they're not as good as the first film. It kind of does remind you of the first film a lot, where it's just people just trying to figure out, oh, Damien is the Antichrist, and then people getting killed. So it's kind of the same stuff, different day. And once again, depressing ending. And more importantly, I hate the pacing really hurt it. First, again, some of the death scenes being fucked up, as well as this bullshit with the food and the company trying to get the power. If they concentrated with Lance Henriksen, give him more screen time, and Damien trying to figure out like who he is and ultimately accepting his destiny to be the Antichrist, and in the military academy with Lance Henriksen, you just still have the stuff going on. Like maybe a worker finds out something's up with Damien. Um, that's why he kills him, and then that leads to Meshach Taylor finding out with the blood and stuff, which is weird. They kill him because he knows about the blood, but then William Holden gets a phone call from another doctor who says that Damien had different blood. So I'm like, they kill Meshach Taylor, but they don't kill the other doctor who killed William Holden about the blood. I'm like, did you just kill him because he's black? I always put that in there, but yeah, it's like okay. So I think less about the fucking this other guy's building it up for the what's going to be in the future. So this company's going to take over, buy people's land, and about food, but it's about power and food and power and fuck all. And is this? I don't think it's as well directed as the first film, and the acting is not as great as in the first film. It's definitely miles better than the remake in 3 and 4, but couple of good deaths. Don't mind the kid who played Damien. William Holden, and Lee Grant are okay, but the pacing, the bullshit with the food, power shit, some of the death scenes got fucked up. Jerry Goldsmith, I thought he was a step down in the score. I thought his score in the first film was better than this one. So overall, again, like the first film, not really the big fan of it, but it's not enough for me to rant on. But anyway, that's my whatever review of Damien Omen 2. Thanks for watching. Take care, and we'll see you later.